On Dream Chaser, the butterfly hatch was starting to show a little bit of wear. It was in pretty good shape compared to a lot of the other wood since this is typically covered, but I wanted to go ahead and start here and felt like I needed some projects that just made some progress to keep me motivated as I go. I started by removing all the screws that hold these grates in place to protect the glass so that it doesn't break. Interestingly enough, these are all bronze screws. So everything that was holding this together were bronze screws, likely the original ones from the manufacturer in 1978. I definitely decided to use a hand screwdriver for these. I didn't want to take the chance of the electric screwdriver stripping them out or potentially breaking them, hoping to reuse some of the bronze screws when I put it back together. The process actually took a lot longer than I expected it to. I was being really cautious because I didn't want to strip out the screws, and my biggest fear was having them break off or shear on the shank, and then me having to figure out a way to drill them out of the base. I just didn't want to have to deal with that. It seemed like it would be a lot of extra work. So I took my time and was really very cautious with this. Once the grates were actually removed, I started to undo all of the screws on the large bronze hinges. So you can see here, as I got all of them off, I had already loosened everything up and disconnected all the thumb screws that kind of hold them up in the up position from down below. So I was able to remove the flap itself and just set it aside to work on it later. Did the same thing with the other side, and then ultimately removed the screws that were holding the center portions of the hinges together so that I could ultimately lift out this center piece. One of the things that was really interesting to me was that none of these were really screwed down. The flaps actually were attached just with the hinges, and then this center board that you see here just lifted straight out of the frame. I guess it's all just friction that holds it together, which was pretty amazing to me. I decided that I wanted to go ahead and sand all of this down to bare wood so I could get a good, nice new finish on it and see just how some of the other teak when refinished would look on the boat. This turned out to be a lot more work to do it this way. However, it was certainly something I wanted to get done. So I started with the actual hatch assembly that sits down in the deck. Ironically enough, much later in this project, I realized that that hatch assembly you see me sanding in this part of the video wasn't actually bolted down to the boat at all. So I was able to pull it out of there. It would have been a lot easier to have sanded instead of laying on my side like this, on a bench somewhere. I repeated this process on both of the actual butterfly flaps themselves, as well as the center beam that we had across the middle. The cool part about all this was it gave me the ability to play with a new toy that I had. My father-in-law had this fine dust collection system. It's sort of a portable dust collection system. So I really wanted to test it out and see how well it worked before we decided whether or not we could use it down below. As it turns out, it works really, really well. It kind of looks like a shop vac, except it has a couple of different speed settings on it, and you have a plug where you plug your actual appliance right into the front of the dust collector itself. You can see it behind me. It's the orange shop vac looking item. So when you turn your sander on, in this case, as soon as you do, it notifies the dust collection system that it's time to turn on the dust collection. When you turn your sander or whatever other appliance you have plugged into it off, it shuts off the dust collection system about 10 to 20 seconds after that. It really, really worked well. I was impressed. The only time it didn't do a good job of keeping all of the dust down to a complete minimum was at times when the wind was blowing really hard. What would end up happening is it would essentially blow right through the the vent holes on the side of the sander before it was able to be sucked up into the vacuum itself. But you can see here it's not a cloud of dust working around me, and I was doing a lot of this at, actually started some of this at 100 grit to remove off the years of varnish, and then I went to 150 and then on to 220. You can see here what some of it looks like now that I have it sanded at least down to 150 in this particular piece of the footage. I love that the manufacturer has these hand-cut joints throughout this boat. It's really impressive, the cabinetry work on this thing. In part 2 of the series, what we'll do is finalize the rest of this sanding, and we'll start the next series with preparing for varnishing and then ultimately the reassembly. Definitely have some good tips on the best ways to thin and utilize varnish for bright work. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for weekly updates and like this video.